don't be afraid to really say, you know what, you can find cheaper experiences elsewhere, but you know what? Here's why it's worth every single penny. Hi there, Kelsey Toner here, the founder of Guest Focused Tour Business Coaching, where every day myself and our team of tour business mentors are helping you build a thriving, profitable tour business. In this 8-part video series, we've been looking at down-to-earth, practical recommendations from our coaching team as well as our members for helping you boost your profitability. Now, in this video, we're going to specifically look at how to maximize the use of the assets that you already have. Over the years as a tour business coach, I've seen countless operators struggle with their profitability, often believing that to get to the profits that they're looking for, they believe that they need to spend a whole lot of money on acquiring new assets or make significant investments to grow their business. However, the truth is that most tour businesses and most tour business owners, including you, my friend, likely have untapped potential within your existing assets and resources. In this video, we're going to dive into 5 key recommendations for maximizing asset utilization as a tour business owner. But to keep things grounded, we're going to be sharing real-world examples from the members of our coaching program to help inspire you what's possible when we successfully implement strategies to leverage what we got and make sure that we're maximizing the revenue per asset. Our first recommendation is to optimize or grow your tour capacity. Now, this especially applies to group tours and obviously has a slightly different context for private and custom. But for any given group tour, yes, you want to make sure that when that tour is running, i.e. you're using that asset in terms of a guide, in terms of a vehicle, you want it at capacity. Now, we've talked about in other videos how we can use things like variable pricing and dynamic pricing to encourage those with flexibility to come during the week so that we can increase the price on the weekend to earn more revenue. But here, I really want you to be thinking about, are there any ways to increase the total number of guests coming on your group tour? And this applies equally to our multi-day operators as well as our day tour operators. If you are running a multi-day tour, it's often a belief or a value proposition that we're stuck to more than necessarily real-world limitations. For example, there are many multi-day operators who tell me about the intimacy of their tours and that, maximum group size of 8 is really their sweet spot. And I'm just here to tell you that this is like playing business on hard mode. Basically, any multi-day group tour, the more passengers that you can add, you're obviously spreading out the cost. And with those initial customers, you're covering most of the costs of that initial tour so that the 10th passenger, the 11th passenger, the 15th, the 16th additional group member adds a huge amount to the bottom line and a huge amount to your profit. And as someone who worked in a multi-day tour company that cared deeply about guest experience, and I was regularly providing high touch, candidly, luxury end experiences for groups of 24 and above, I sometimes push back on the assumptions that are made that, our guests simply wouldn't tolerate smaller group size. And if you are really committed to those smaller group sizes, then at very least, recognize the opportunity cost or the revenue and profit that you are foregoing by intentionally capping your group capacity. And if you're okay with that, then by all means. But at very minimum, that likely means that you should be charging a premium for that small, intimate group experience. Let's ground this in another real-world example from our coaching program. We had a bike tour operator who was working with one of our coaches, and they also believed that they really wanted a max group size, meaning the max number of bikes that would be in any given tour was capped at, I think it was 8 to 10 or something like that. And they had 2 staff members who were going on those tours. Now, our coach quickly identified this as a potential profitability booster for their tour business. They were doing everything they could to grow their bottom line. They wanted to be more profitable, and they were struggling to get return on marketing investment and return on ad spend. But by looking at their assets and saying, you know what, if we removed this additional staff member and we increased the capacity, meaning we allowed an additional 5 passengers during your busiest season, do you think we could sell out those tours? Do you think with some tactical adjustments and retraining and maybe thinking about how we're doing our safety briefings and moving through the city, that we could have that larger group size with a fewer staff member. Ultimately, they agreed to try it, and that decision alone, based on their past year's bookings, netted them over $25,000 in additional revenue for the tour business. Notice here how this simple, small assumption was holding them back from a huge amount of profit that we were able to unlock in their tour business. Our next recommendation has to do with diversifying your offerings and trying to create unique, high-value offers with the same underlying assets. So a great example was here in Vancouver. Vancouver Water Adventures had a number of paddle boards that they were using in the rental market. And there were a number of other competitors. And this was a pretty commoditized experience. There wasn't a whole lot other than maybe some key locations why people were choosing them over alternatives. However, they recognized that if they created some higher value tours and they started offering paddleboard tours, they were able to increase the revenue per asset. They were able to create an offer that was not only differentiated from the competition, but was also much more profitable. In the same way, they had some Sea-Doos that were often selling out in terms of rental and Sea-Doo tours in the afternoon, but they were sitting idle in the morning. And they looked at that and said, what can we do to increase the use of this asset here in the morning? And here it was actually coming up with some creative messaging and a creative value proposition. And they created what we call the Ocean is Yours tour, highlighting that there's actually some really special benefits to getting out into the Vancouver harbor first thing in the morning. I'm reminded of another time on the east coast of Canada this time when I was leading these bicycle tours for Backroads Tours in my home province of Nova Scotia. And Backroads had this asset, which was essentially this multi-day itinerary. They obviously had the partnerships, the relationships with suppliers, with hotels. They had the bike routes mapped out. And they were realizing they were quickly selling out these tours as fast as they could list them. And so we worked in destination to see, hey, how many times could we actually run this tour? And it was pretty impressive when you start staggering departures every couple of days, meaning one particular Backroads group would be leaving the hotel, and then later that day, another trip following right behind them would be coming in. What a great way to maximize the use of those existing assets, including, not least of which, would be the sales page and all of the marketing assets associated with that particular trip. Recommendation number 3 is consider targeting different ideal target guests or different customer segments with your existing assets. So the most classic example here for businesses that are seasonal in nature is potentially looking at or considering leaning into a more local corporate opportunity. Maybe that's year-end celebrations or team building events that might be happening during the holiday period when visitors and tourists have dropped off, but you still have some existing assets, whether that's in the form of tour leaders, maybe it's in the form of vehicles or itineraries and experiences that could be adapted to fit that corporate market. This also allows you to tap into what could be more profitable opportunities as well. I know many of our tour business coaches, once they dipped their toe into that corporate world and they saw the higher margins, the increase in repeating business that came from working with that corporate market, they very quickly focused more and more attention on those more profitable tours. I'm recording this right now in beautiful Squamish, British Columbia, which is between Vancouver and Whistler. And right about 10 minutes from me is this beautiful sea-to-sky gondola that goes right from the Pacific Ocean up into the mountainous Alpine. And it's a huge focus on international visitors and tourists who obviously are coming year-round to Vancouver and to Whistler. However, what I love about the sea-to-sky gondola is that they have that existing asset and they're regularly reaching out, especially in those shoulder seasons, to local residents and local families, especially, to come on up to the sea-to-sky gondola. So we've gone up there and I've taken my young girls on multiple occasions to go to their Easter egg hunt, or they had a fun costumed Halloween event, and even a photos with Santa event where we went up there and did crafts, had hot chocolate, and had a really lovely time. What a great way to serve multiple markets and increase the revenue from that existing asset. even though in a time like October 31st, there's not a lot of international visitors here, but they can certainly tap into this local market. All right, recommendation number 4 is to focus your attention on high profit tours, activities, experiences, or high profit products and services. What do we mean by this? This is really an exercise that you can do in the year-end analysis when you're looking at the various tours and activities. I actually love the scene from that movie, The Founder, with Michael Keaton, the McDonald's brothers. And when the McDonald's brothers looked at their original menu, they realized that mostly what they were selling was burgers, fries, and milkshakes, even though they had this massive menu of a number of other things. And most of those other things weren't all that profitable. So they made that tactical decision to eliminate a lot of the other things off their menu and to serve those burgers, fries, and shakes as quickly as possible. Now we want to bring that same type of analysis and rigor to your own product lineup. Again, to ground this in a real world example, I remember a colleague of mine who was running a tour operator business that was based on VW vans. And he had a fleet of these vans and would do experiences in the Napa Valley wine region. And he was really excited. And I remember him excitedly telling me about how he had created this oyster experience in the Bay Area where we had access to go and do some shucking, taste the oysters, a really authentic experience. But what he said to me is at the end of the year, using my booking software, I was able to run the reports. And what I saw pretty consistently was that not only was this oyster tour not nearly as profitable as the Napa Valley wine tours, but it was consistently running below capacity, meaning they were having trouble filling up that oyster tour. And the insight he had was, well, every single one of my VW vans that is running that oyster tour, not only is it less profitable, not only am I not running at capacity, but it's actually the opportunity cost, meaning I can't use that VW van or that driver guide to facilitate the Napa Valley wine experiences, which I could sell for more profit and consistently were selling out. And he candidly said it was a tough decision, but I had to kill my baby. He much preferred this other tour, but at the end of the day, it allowed him to streamline and simplify his business and his operations. And he then focused entirely on the Napa Valley and had a much healthier, more profitable and sustainable business because of it. Are you doing this type of regular analysis with your own tours, activities, and experiences? And recommendation number 5 for maximizing the revenue per asset comes back to having a beginner's mind or a willingness to test and probe with your pricing. I can simply reassure you that 9 out of 10 tour business owners that jump into the guest focused coaching program, we are strongly encouraging them to increase their prices, to move to be more expensive than their competitors, to allow that price to help differentiate them from competitors and stand for and represent the increased quality that so many of the people that are drawn to what we're doing here at Guest Focus. And don't be afraid to really say, you know what, you can find cheaper experiences elsewhere, but you know what? Here's why it's worth every single penny. And so basically, we want to encourage you to recognize that even small price increases, something as little as an increase of $1, is not likely to be something that is going to have a huge impact on your conversion rate and on your sales. But it can have a massive impact on your profitability when that's compounded month after month and over the course of a full season or multiple years. The story that I'd love to share with you is a member that jumped into our coaching program who does party bikes. And what he saw, there was a rise in demand because of the unique way that he was doing his party bikes. That demand for private tours was going. But we quickly recognized that he was undercharging for his private experiences. When a party bike was being used on a private rental like this, he was not earning nearly the revenue, nearly the profit he could on a group tour. And it took some convincing, but finally his guest focus coach convinced him to rip the Band-Aid off and make that leap. And he increased his private booking price over $150 to better reflect the 50% profit margin that he was aiming for and wanted to receive. And you know what happened? he continued to sell out month after month, and they made a substantial increase in the profits for his business. Sometimes we have a lot of mental blocks that are ultimately holding us back for charging for what we're worth, or limiting beliefs that allow us to undervalue just how much we are providing to our ideal target guests. So to bring this all together, hopefully this video has prompted you to adopt this mentality of looking at your existing assets and really looking at the revenue per asset. As we discussed, optimizing or maximizing your tour capacity and increasing group size by diversifying your offerings and potentially adding more high value offers with the existing assets, by targeting different customer segments or different ideal target guests during shoulder seasons or off seasons, maybe focusing entirely on your most profitable tours and selling as many of those as possible. And of course, have a willingness to test what the market can bear in terms of your pricing. If you do all of the tactics that we've covered here today, you're going to be well on your way to increasing the profitability of your business without substantial capital outlays. What we're really talking about here today is looking at your existing assets and trying to make them as profitable as possible. We hope that these real-world stories inspired you by what's possible and just how much of an impact this exercise could have on a tour business like yours. We'd like you to take a closer look at your existing assets and go through these strategies one by one. Before you go, I'd love to know, let us know down below, what are some of your asset maximization tactics? Is there something that we didn't mention here? I know for sure that there have been. I would love to hear from you, and we'd love you to share your wisdom with our community. Now, our team of tour business mentors and coaches are so good at quickly auditing our members, at auditing some of the tour businesses that jump into our program, that the results that we can help you achieve come fast and furious. If you're interested in learning more about our program and how we can help you boost your profitability very, very quickly in a short amount of time, you owe it to yourself to book a free strategy call with one of our tour business coaches. You can learn more at guestfocus.com/book a call. It's a free 45-minute strategy call. We'll tell you all about the program and maybe even on that short call help you identify some profit boosting tactics. Thank you so much for tuning in to this video series. And if you'd enjoyed it, and in particular this video, it would mean the world to me if you'd share it with a friend or a colleague. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.